Good afternoon and welcome to the next in our series of export skills webinars. Of course, these are part of the Export Skills program, and today a continuation of the Marketing Masterclass. I'm Collins Rex. I'm a director with the Global Trade Professionals Alliance, and the GTPA is an organisation that cultivates international standards within the industry. Our aim is to create a trade environment that is both inclusive and trusted by all. And the GTPA has partnered with Global Victoria to deliver the comprehensive export skills program. As you know by now, it is a program of 5 separate modules, one of which has already completed, the other 4 very much still in full swing, and the URL that you see on your screen will take you to the registration page for all the remaining sessions. I begin today by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet, which for me is the land of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, and I extend my respect to elders past, present and emerging, and I also extend that respect to any Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders people who might be joining us on today's webinar. I just draw your attention to the disclaimer on the screen, and please bear in mind that if you are going to use anything as business advice, that you make sure it is appropriate to your business, because every business's circumstances are different, and this webinar is being recorded. So as I mentioned, I'm Collins Rex. I'm a director of the GTPA, and I will be your presenter for today's session. Now, for today's session, we're going to look at that all-important relationship between marketing and sales. And we will literally be comparing the two, and we'll be drilling down into some of the specifics in the differences. And finally, and very importantly, we'll be looking at how marketing and sales come into alignment. And as always, if you have any questions, please feel free to type them in the chat box. And if we don't take them during the actual webinar, we'll take them at the end. And as always, at the end, I'll also give you my email address, and you are more than welcome to send any questions to me via email as well. There will be a copy of today's deck made available to you. So if you would like a copy of the deck, please drop me an email and I will send that to you. And the recording of today's webinar will be made available in due course by Global Victoria, and that will be at the end of the entire Export Skills program. So let's look at marketing versus sales. And very often these two departments in a business are in conflict. And that's simply because they have different methodologies. And the one is seen to be a money generator, that being sales, and the other is very often seen as being a money spender, that of course being marketing. Now, marketing informs and attracts leads and prospects to your company, and indeed to your product or your service. Sales, on the other hand, works directly with prospects to reinforce the value of the company's solution, to convert those prospects into customers. While the two functions are different, they share a common goal, and that is to generate revenue, and the one really cannot exist without the other. So sales and marketing, both two business functions within your organization. They both impact lead generation and they both impact revenue. Sales is all of those activities that lead to the actual selling of goods and services, the transfer of goods and or services from your business into the hands of a customer. Salespeople manage relationships with potential clients. They provide solutions for prospects, and that hopefully in due course leads to a sale. Marketing, however, encompasses all the activities that help spark interest in your business in the first place. Marketers use market research, analysis, etc., to understand the needs and the interests of potential customers. They're responsible for running those campaigns to attract people to your brand, to your product, and to your service. What you see in the table there is a direct comparison one to the other. And I'm just going to point out a couple of those. The approach being one. In the case of sales, the approach is very much product oriented. In the case of marketing, it's customer oriented. The strategies, well, sales tends to follow those push strategies that we've examined in the past, whereas marketing is more likely to be looking at the pull strategies. And if we cast our eyes down to the bottom of the table, we see that communication and selling skills, essential for sales, and analytical skills, essential for marketing. But of course, as we'll see over the course of this session, there is a great deal of overlap between the two different departments. So we've looked in broad terms at the difference between the two. Let's drill down now into some of the specifics. In addition to those general differences, and there are some specifics as well. So for example, marketing focuses its efforts on the general public or larger groups of people, while sales tends to target smaller groups or subsets or indeed individuals. But there are four main areas in which marketing and sales differ, and those are process goals, tools and resources, and strategies. We start off by looking at process, and whether you're writing a marketing or a sales plan, both will include details about the history of the company, its overarching goals and its initiatives. But then we start delving down into specifics as per each department. So the marketing plan will lay out what the product is, its price, who it'll be sold to, where it will be sold. And of course, by now you're all comfortable with those traditional 4 Ps of marketing and the additional 3 that make up the 7 Ps. Goals are set, marketing channels chosen, budget is made for the campaigns, and then the marketing teams execute those campaigns. Sales plans include details about the sales process, the team structure, the target market, and the goals. And the sales plan outlines the action plan, the tools, the resources that will all be used to hit these targets. Now, when we talk about those goals, what are the key goals that marketing and sales set? Both aim to generate revenue for the company. But the primary goal of marketing is to look at the big picture and promote the company, the product, the service, the brand. Marketing departments are responsible for pricing the products and communicating how the product fills the customer's needs and wants. And the goals of the marketing department are often longer term because campaigns can span the course of many months, or in some cases, in extreme cases, even years. For sales, the focus, of course, is to hit quotas and sales volume goals, and these tend to be shorter term goals. Sales goals are often measured month by month, and targets are defined. Sales management calculates how much their department, teams, and individual salespeople need to sell to meet the overarching goal. In the case of tools and resources, a CRM database is a tool that can and should be used by both sales and marketing and every other kind of department within your company. The database helps all departments to manage relationships with contacts, no matter which stage of the customer life cycle they're in. So irrespective of whether they're set at the top of the funnel or at the bottom of the funnel, a CRM helps to keep track of the customer, what their needs are, what their aspirations are, what their sales history is, and what their future is likely to look like. Social media can also be leveraged by both business units. For marketing, of course, social media is used to promote the content, and for sales, it can be used as part of the social selling strategy. But then there are tools that are specific to each department. So in the case of marketing, we're looking at tools like conversion rate optimization, search engine optimization, project management tools, data reporting software, content creation tools, social media scheduling tools, etc. In the case of sales tools, we're looking more at those process-oriented tools like meetings apps, documents tools, invoicing software, email management tools, inventory management software, etc. A crucial part of communication today does reside in technology. So for example, AI and live chat are newer tools that both marketing and sales can use to develop relationships with leads. And this type of personalized communication, of course, wasn't really possible until recently, not unless there was a great deal of manual intervention. If companies adopt this new software and technology as it's created, they do get first mover advantage, and it does improve the relationship with leads and end customers. Now, the final component where these two departments differ is in strategy. Marketing teams take very different strategic approaches depending on the customer that they're targeting and the type of campaign that suits the product or the brand. And some of those common marketing strategies include digital and traditional marketing strategies. And then some of the activities that underpin digital marketing include things like blog marketing, search engine optimization, social media marketing, video marketing, etc. And when we look at the traditional marketing strategies, the activities that underpin those include things like print marketing, television, radio advertising, and attending physical events like trade shows and expos. Sales, on the other hand, similar to marketing strategies, have their own strategies that they employ. And these strategies very often are company determined. The company will decide how their salespeople are supposed to sell. But in some cases, individuals will develop their own sales strategies depending on what works best for them. And sales methods, of course, vary depending on the industry, the products being sold, the markets into which you are selling, and indeed the target customer. So just listing some of those more popular sales methodologies, and there are literally dozens of them. So you have methodologies like SPIN, which, as you can see, is situation, problem, implication, and need payoff. There's also consultative or solution selling, NEAT selling, conceptual selling, SNAP selling, customer-centric selling, inbound selling, MEDIC, challenges, Sandler, and as I said, any number of others. Now, an important thing to note is that next week's Marketing Masterclass, which is a face-to-face workshop in the city, for those of you that have attended those in the past, it is at International Chamber House, and we will then be examining in more detail a couple of selling methodologies and indeed giving you the opportunity to test out your own sales ability based on the discussion that we will be having. Now, each of the sales strategies helps a buyer to solve a problem, achieve a goal, or satisfy a need. And hopefully in the process, the sales team's selling technique leads to a sale and a new, and even more importantly, a repeat customer. Now, we've looked at the differences between sales and marketing, but of course, for any organization to thrive and to grow, sales and marketing do need to be aligned. Sales and marketing alignment is a shared system of communication, strategies, and goals that enable marketing and sales to operate as a unified team. And when they work together, these aligned teams deliver high impact marketing activities, boosted sales effectiveness, and ultimately revenue growth. Historically, sales and marketing have worked in silos and they've been segmented from one another. Marketing would own the top of the funnel, as we've already examined, and sales would own the bottom. Once a lead was ready for sales, it could be handed off, and in many cases, the marketing team would never be in touch with them again. Now, that was, but it no longer is, because this linear process just isn't possible in our current environment. Customers are engaging with brands long before they purchase and long after they've made a sale. And this applies equally to B2B as it does to B2C. So if you're simply handing off a lead from a marketing team to a sales team, and then there's no touch point again from the marketing team, you will find that your business really isn't perceived as well as it should be. And there'll be lost revenue as a result. There really does need to be a seamless customer experience. And if we look at a very basic marketing funnel, we can see that in the past, there was a clear handover, more or less at the consideration phase. At this point, marketing would feel that its job had been done, sales would take over, and never the twain would meet. Well, today, marketing is involved all the way through to evaluation, and sales takes care of purchasing. Of course, marketing then steps back in and is involved again to ensure that that customer remains a customer, is positively predisposed towards the company, and remains a repeat customer going forward. So let's look at what marketing does for sales. In a tightly aligned organization, marketers focus on guiding buyers through the early stages of a buyer's journey in preparation for engagement with the sales team later on. So this means that in order to truly support sales, marketing must educate buyers, nurture and qualify leads, provide competitive intel, influence the market so that the market moves towards your business, and then consistently engage customers once they have been converted. Marketing supports sales by ensuring that buyers are educated, interested, and engaged, and more likely to start and then continue to do business with you. Now, conversely, what does sales do for marketing other than generate the money that pays the salaries, of course? Sales responsibility is to sell, but that doesn't mean that sales don't support marketing. Because of their proximity to the customer, salespeople can offer a wealth of insight into what the buyer needs, the efficiency of the business and the sales processes, the marketing processes, etc., and the capabilities of the product. A tightly aligned sales team can close the feedback loop because a sales team shares real-world solution applications, market dynamics. It's the sales team that is out there and will feed back how things have changed in a particular market. They feed back customer health, whether the customers are happy with the business or unhappy. The processes efficiencies, how well it's all working, and whether content generated by marketing is hitting the mark. By delivering this intel, sales ensures that marketing is up to date on the buyer's pain points and needs, and therefore better able to target the marketing initiatives appropriately. Now, when sales and marketing are properly aligned, a number of problems simply go away. The first of those is poor customer data. So the trend towards point solution tech stacks that we've entered into in this current environment hasn't just resulted in bloatware in many cases. Organizations also find themselves with this crazy tangled web of customer data that comes from lots of different sources and very often delivers few insights. When marketing and sales are aligned, all of that data can be snapped into focus, and the hidden trends can and do emerge because the tech is centralized. Forming an operational center of excellence that serves both sales and marketing ensures that your technology is integrated and insightful, that your CRM is actually doing its job, and it's not just a repository of empty data. The next problem that can be solved is the underutilization of sales content. Now, the statistics that we often hear is that 65% of marketing content goes unused by sales. And whether that content is sales brochures, whether it's a website, whether it's blog posts or posts on LinkedIn, etc., it does appear that 65% is just ignored by sales, or that traditionally is what we're told. Poor alignment is the cause of this disconnect. So typically marketing creates, develops, delivers sales assets, and often does it with little or no input from the sales team themselves. So this means that marketing is generating stuff that sales actually doesn't want and doesn't need. When marketing and sales is aligned, marketers create content that actually addresses the seller's needs effectively. And that means that the marketing content is adopted, hours aren't wasted, and they are not running around with one-off requests issued by the sales team. Another problem is that of clunky lead handoffs. So lead handoffs can very easily become a point of tension between sales and marketing. Marketing can generate hundreds of leads at an event, for example, and sales may decide to pursue recycled opportunities instead. And then they say that marketing hasn't qualified the leads enough. Well, when they work together, they also agree on how the leads are scored and how fast sales should act on them. And this way, both teams operate more efficiently. So instead of those marketers who've gone to the trade show, just collecting a bunch of webs, or rather of business cards, and handing those over to the sales team and saying, go for your life, they actually know what the people who came to the stand wanted. They've answered some basic questions so that they can give the sales team qualified leads. This also means that buyers are contacted in good time, and they're also given decent information. They're not just contacted months after the fact to say, you visited our trade show stand, we hope you're still alive and kicking. They actually get really good information, and they get it quickly. There's also the problem of demonstrating return on investment. So working in silos can make it far more difficult to demonstrate ROI. So how can marketing, for example, prove that they've influenced a deal? The sticking points can obscure the inefficiencies in a business and make it difficult to understand where investment is needed. When the two teams align, credit is given where it's due. And that means that when a sale has occurred, marketing is given the due credit for that sale, because they can track where it is that the lead was generated and what it is that marketing did to actually help convince the customer to become a customer. That way you don't run into the situation where sales is saying that marketing just spends money and marketing doesn't say that sales doesn't credit them. Then, of course, there is the issue of stagnant growth. New product launches or campaigns spur growth, but then these initiatives can become a little bit stale as growth plateaus. And when the buyers aren't biting, well, the only way that you make sure they bite again is to align sales and marketing, and that way you reignite your go-to-market engine. A tightly aligned team will leverage closed-loop feedback to empower leaders from both teams to examine market dynamics and buyer behavior. They'll also help to assess new opportunities and will pivot strategies to go after them effectively. So if sales have plateaued, this is the time that the sales team and the marketing team sit around the same table and discuss why that could be the case. Marketing can adjust its strategy to generate more leads, and sales, of course, can then act on those leads. Marketing can also provide more relevant collateral, for example, if the sales team has indicated that a particular piece of collateral or a particular channel of marketing is not working effectively. Now let's look at some best practice examples for sales and marketing alignment. We've already talked about how some common problems can be solved when the two teams are aligned. Well, this is what we look at in terms of best practice to ensure that that alignment can actually occur. First of all, share your goals. If you want to tackle misalignment, the first step is formally recognize that marketing and sales, and indeed everybody else in the business, is working towards the same goal. So whether these objectives are companies' objectives, such as doubling revenue, or they are more specific, launching a new product line, for example, it's important to agree upon the business outcomes. Sales and marketing tend to have blinders towards their own operations. Marketing sees objectives in generalizations. Sales has a more individualistic view. When you unite them under one goal, you deepen their understanding of each other and their objectives, and they collaborate and are better aligned and focused on the business outcome. It's important that marketing and sales strategize together. This go-to-market strategy business that is done only by marketers and sales strategies done only by sales teams is counterproductive. Sales and marketing leaders must come together to understand where the market stands, what the buyers need, what they need now, how the solution can address these inputs, etc. So if you are doing those off-site meetings for the sales team or the marketing team, do them together and make sure that people are in sync. Gathering everyone in the same physical or digital space creates the room for open discourse, and it does lead to positive outcomes. So make sure that both teams are working towards the same shared goal. Agree on processes. Once you start executing those goals, sales and marketing managers will inevitably interact. Cross-functional collaboration is great, but of course it can also be complicated. So you need to come up with a repeatable model so that managers can engage with each other, agreeing on certain terminology, outcomes, etc. And this way, everybody knows where they stand, whose role belongs to whom, who has responsibility for what, and what the expectations are. How are you going to do it? Are you going to put in place a crew that deals with this? Are you going to have individuals that deal with this? If you have a methodology and you've streamlined it, it will work far more effectively because everyone will know where they stand. Some of the conversations between marketing and sales can be uncomfortable because there can be friction at times. So it's also necessary to acknowledge this friction because it's the only way that growth occurs. So if you get complacent and it becomes same old, you will find that the business, and particularly the sales revenue, will stagnate. Some teams are afraid to push back because they have a fear of retaliation, office politics, and some people just are not particularly confrontational. So encourage constructive criticism, and this will help to bring sales and marketing together. It also helps the different teams to understand why decisions were made, and the end result is always better as a result of that conversation. You might want to have a formalized system in place, and if you do, then of course ensure that all the interactions are respectful, but very often just an informal collaboration and open communication is the way to go. And that also means that you need to centralize communications. One of the worst contributors to misalignment is poor communication. If you're going to help your sales and marketing teams work together, you have to centralize communication and you must have regular distributions. This will ensure that key stakeholders never miss an important conversation. And of course, it also increases transparency. So centralize your communications via a dedicated tool. Slack works really well, but good old-fashioned email works too. And know where your teams can find updates and communicate those. Also, let them know how frequently updates will be delivered. So if marketing is posting new content in a blog, for example, let the sales team know that the blog posts are updated weekly or monthly or quarterly, whatever the case is, but let them know. Let them know when a new communication has gone out so that they're not left hanging if they get inquiries from people and they don't know what it's based on, for example. Doesn't matter how large your team is. If you follow these basic steps, then your marketers and your salespeople will both be in the same loop, and they'll be in lockstep when it comes to outcomes as well. Sales enablement is an interesting concept because really what this is a way of giving your salespeople the tools that they need to do their job, which is ultimately closing the sale. So enablement acts as a neutral conduit between marketing and sales. So in the case of content, for example, a sales enablement team can ensure that assets are never presented to sellers without training and guidance on how to use them effectively. So you have somebody that takes charge of this within the sales team, and that way the content is always used to utmost effect. If you invest in an enablement team, you're creating a reliable conduit of information between your organization and the organization to whom you're selling. And you're letting your sellers and your marketers do what they do best. So instead of just sending out a new brochure or a new product fact sheet, for example, somebody in the sales team has to take responsibility for ensuring that the sales team members know how to use the content that has been given to them and that it aligns with their sales strategies. And then finally, we come to leading by example. One of the most important things that sales and marketing can do to stay aligned is lead by example. When leaders make the effort to stay aligned, there is a trickle-down effect to direct reports. So the sales manager and the marketing manager need to work together, or indeed the sales director and the marketing director if you have those roles in your business. The sales and marketing leaders must meet regularly to communicate progress on goals, explore opportunities for growth, and offer feedback. This shows the teams that the teams are in lockstep. Simple changes, celebrating cross-functional wins, for example. So when a sale is made, the marketing team cheers the salespeople. When marketing manages to have a digital breakthrough, the sales team cheers them on, for example. This ensures that you have a very well aligned, highly successful marketing and sales culture in your business. If you align, you will win. And it doesn't matter whether you're a team of two in a really small business and one of you takes responsibility for sales and the other for marketing, or indeed you're a global enterprise. Sales and marketing alignment is absolutely critical to your success. If you're a one-person business, you're a sole operator and you do everything in your business, it is important for you too to understand how what you do on the marketing side is going to influence the sales outcomes. They cannot operate in a vacuum. You cannot have marketing activities just because they seem like great things to do. You have to be conscious of the outcome in terms of generating revenue and generating sales. Marketing doesn't operate in a vacuum. We can all be very clever in the marketing sphere, but if we don't see sales outcomes, we haven't actually achieved what we set out to do. If you put all of these practices in place, you will certainly be on your way to winning together. And that certainly sounded like a bit of a pep talk today, didn't it? But I think ultimately it is really important that the message is conveyed that marketing and sales cannot operate in vacuums. They cannot be siloed. They have to work hand in glove if the organization is going to succeed. And that is more important when you're talking about international business expansion even than domestic, because you are trying to marry all those different requirements in different markets and different customer segmentations. And it's vitally important that the same message is spread by every component of your business. If there are any questions, please feel free to type them in the chat box. And as I mentioned, we are going to be looking in more detail at sales next week. And I guess that just snaps into focus that marketing, this being the marketing masterclass, cannot function without sales. So we definitely need to know what the other hand is doing, so to speak. While you're thinking about those questions, just a reminder that you go along to the website that you see, the URL that you see on your screen, to register for all the upcoming activities. And we are starting to get towards the pointy end of the program. So as you know, the standards and certification module has already completed. The marketing masterclass after today has only 2 webinars and workshops left. So next week is a face-to-face workshop, which is held at International Chamber House at 121 Exhibition Street in the city. And you need to register for that one online. And then we have one more webinar, which is being held on the 14th of June. And that is specifically looking at marketing to international customers. Cybersecurity has a couple of sessions still to go, and international business rules has just started with 2 more webinars to come. And advanced e-commerce, well, that one still has a few to run. There are still 4 sessions coming in that one. So still lots of opportunities to register for things and be involved in them. So please do so. If you would like a copy of today's deck, please feel free to drop me an email. And of course, if you think of any questions after today, you are also more than welcome to send me an email. Or if you want to know about the face-to-face sessions, for example, and whether you can still register for them, etc. It doesn't appear that we have any questions, so I'm going to take it that you've got all the information you need for today, and all that then remains to be said is thank you very much for attending. As always, it's always great to have the pleasure of your company, to see so many regulars online, and also to see some new names as well. So thank you everyone for your attention. Have a great afternoon, and look forward to seeing you at the next session, and go off and do some good business. Goodbye.